First two problems I've had with the bike, there's been several times where I set a charging limit. Let's say I set it to 70%. In the app, it will look like the bike is not charging, that it's only charged to 50% and then the charger just stopped. So I keep thinking the charger is buggy, it's got bad connection. Unplug the charger, plug it back in, and I still don't see the charge go up. So I'm thinking the bike's not charging. Then if I exit out of the app, or even just go to a different part of the app and then go back to the monitor, see, like right there, it was showing me 70%, but in reality the bike is at 68%. But the app will lock up or not show you the actual charge unless you exit and then go back to the monitor, and then you see the real charge. So the bike from a hardware standpoint and the charger from a hardware standpoint seem to be functioning fine. It's just the Android app that can be buggy and make you think the bike is not doing what it's supposed to be doing. The other problem I had, I showed up for a ride near Deming, New Mexico with 7 other riders, and I just went to check my tire pressure and my valve started leaking. So it wasn't because it's punctured. So I pumped it to like 15 psi, rode around. My front valve stem is leaking, so I'm running around so it seals up. I got sealant in there.
It's lost. We won't be able to hear where he's at.
That's right. Where'd it go?
Yeah.
The sealant that I put in there apparently helped seal the valve. What I'm going to do today is take the valve back out and clean it up. The other problem with these valves is that when you try to loosen it, the entire metal part rotates within the rubber. That's just no good. So you have to hold the threaded portion with pliers as you loosen the valve, and that makes me worry that I'm gonna deform or that I'm gonna damage the threads just to loosen the valve, but it's kind of what you have to do. And the rear, I did have it leak to a very low pressure, maybe like 1.72 psi after a week of not moving, but that was probably just from a thorn. All I did was pump it back up, and then one thing you can do if you have the bike on the stand, roll on the throttle for a bit and you can get the tire to reseal. That's what I did for maybe like 30 seconds the other day, and it sealed right back up. So since the valve was leaking, I'm going to try to remove the valve, clean it up, and see if it holds air. Just trying to protect the threads a little bit. Okay, let's see if that did it. So the valve looks pretty clean. So I'm not sure why it was leaking. It's going to get to the point where I get tired of messing with these stock tubes like everybody else did and just switch to more standard tubes, I think. I have some lying around. It's just I'm being stubborn, I guess, and trying to make the stock tubes work. I have done probably 6.5 hours on the bike now, and they've been working fine with sealant in them. Hopefully cleaning it and getting it back in there will help. I'm going to try to just hand tighten it this time. So this pressure gauge has proven to be very reliable and accurate. I'll have a link for it down below. Same thing with this compressor. I really like this Avid Power compressor. It's been working very well for me. I use it to pump up my vehicles, cars and motorcycles. But let's see what the pressure is now. 6 psi. Yeah, so it's definitely leaking at the valve. This valve is definitely proving to be problematic. I'm going to try to tighten it down more, but should not have to tighten these down much at all. You can just watch it, see if it starts leaking down. Yep, it's definitely still leaking. So I'm gonna just stick a regular tube in this front tire. Tired of messing with it. And I guess I'll leave the one in the rear alone for now, but yeah, I should probably just swap it out as well. Very disappointing that even with sealant, I couldn't get these to work, and it's not because of the material, it's a valve problem, and that's very unusual. Valves usually are not the issue. Took out the red thin tube that comes with the Varg. I can see why pinholes develop on the spoke side. The material is quite a bit thinner on the spoke side than the tire side. The material's not as thin as I thought it would be, especially on the tire side. But the faulty valve is what ended up making me pull this tube out. I was going to keep it if it didn't get flat, but the valve has a weird design. You can just spin it by hand. So it's got some sealing element here that could fail. Now, against my better judgment, I'm going to go with a standard tube not even heavy duty or ultra heavy duty, and I'm going to put a sealant in the standard tube. I'm trying to keep the bike as light as possible to maintain my range. So if this standard tube fails, then I'll go to my 3mm heavy duty tube that I use on most of my other dirt bikes. I have gone to even thicker than 3mm. I think the next one up is maybe 4, but that seems to be too heavy and stiff. 3mm seems to be the happy medium where you don't get any flats and it's also not too thick, but I'm going to take it one step at a time. Another issue with the Varg, when I received it, it was missing this latch cover, and I didn't realize it until I started watching videos of other Varg owners and realized that this soft foam cover around the phone should be completed here over the latch. Contacted Stark, got a pretty quick response the next day with an email saying it would ship it right to me, and they do have distribution warehouses everywhere. I'm in Texas, and this one came from a distribution warehouse in Texas. Let's see what this part looks like. I'm assuming this just snaps in. No fasteners or anything. Oh, I see. So it looks like there's a hinge pivot here. Some hinge pins here. It looks like they pop right into these holes. And then these little pins snap in here. So I can see why it would have potentially fallen out in shipping or handling somehow. Looks like it's pretty easy to install. But that means it's probably also easy for it to fly off. Yeah, this side is not popping in. There we go. Just a little bit of pressure with my finger and it pops over the pin. I can see this flying off. Yeah, so we'll see how long it stays on here. It might be okay. That completes the look. Looks much nicer with that in place. Great support from Stark so far. If you find this type of content useful, please consider subscribing and hit that like button to be notified of future content.